A very good morning to all the participants of this webinar from DTRTA Lucknow. I'm Arvind Mishra, Deputy Director. And today on 8th of November 2020 morning, we are going to study part 2 of Bills of Exchange and Promissory Notes as part of our series on bookkeeping and accountancy for the DTRTA Lucknow webinar 2021. And we are at Bill at Site. In the earlier webinar, we have already studied what are the bills of exchange and what are the promissory notes and what is the difference between the two. We have also studied the detailed comparison of the two instruments and the accounting treatment to be given to them. Now we are at bill at site. Bill at site means that the instrument in which no time for payment is mentioned. Because no time for payment is mentioned, as soon as the bill is seen, it needs to be paid. So it is like a bill which is payable on demand. Just like a check is always payable on demand, a promissory note or bill of exchange will be payable on demand under two situations. Number one, either when no time for payment is specified, which means that it is a bill at site, or when it is expressed to be payable on demand, that is to say that it is mentioned on the bill that it is payable on demand, or payable at site, or payable on presentment. Presentment when it is presented to somebody who is supposed to pay. So at the words at site and the word presentment clearly mean that that bill would be paid on demand on being presented or on being cited. Cited means on seeing it. So the person who's supposed to pay, if he sees that bill, or if he's shown that bill, then he needs to pay. Then an instrument payable on demand, whichever instrument is payable on demand, may be presented for payment at any time because there is no time boundation for it. And moreover, we don't add the 3 days of grace period when we calculate the maturity of the bill which is payable on demand. That is an important point to be watched for. Now, what is bill after date? Bill after date is an instrument in which time for payment is mentioned. So therefore, it has to be paid after that date. So a promissory note or bill of exchange will be a time instrument when either it is expressed to be payable after a specified period or on a specific day or after sight, not on site but after sight, or on the happening of the event which is certain to happen. That is on the happening of a certain event, not a contingent event. So when the bill is expressed means it is mentioned on the bill that it is payable after a specified period or on a specific day or after sight or on the happening of a certain event. Certain event means an event which is definite to happen. In that case, that bill will be called a bill after date. Now, after sight word means that after presentment for sight. the bill will be cited, it will be seen. It will be seen when it is produced, when it is presented. Secondly, in a bill of exchange, the word after cite means after acceptance or noting for non-acceptance or protest for non-acceptance. So after cite also means, in the case of a bill of exchange, after acceptance or after noting for non-acceptance or after protest for non-acceptance. So these expressions will also be part of after cite. Because a bill can be cited or seen after acceptance, because after acceptance, at any time, it can be shown to the person who has signed on the bill as a drawee, and then he has to pay. Sometimes when the bill is not accepted, then after noting for acceptance, it can be cited. But in that case, if it is not accepted, then it cannot be paid. And in case the bill is not accepted, then a protest may also be lodged. So after protest, also the bill can be cited. And if the bill is cited after protest, then since it is already protested, does not mean that it will need to be paid, but it is definitely included in the word cited. Now, check cannot be a time instrument because the check is always payable on demand. You have to understand this thing. A bill can be a time instrument. A time for payment will be mentioned on the bill. Although a check can be post-dated means we put a date on the check which is not yet come and which can be presented on or after such date. If we post-date a check, then it becomes a sort of a time instrument because it cannot be presented for payment before that date. But otherwise, the check is not a time instrument because check is payable on demand. Also, a check has a validity of 90 days from its date, from its statement on the date, the date is mentioned on the check. And after that date, after 90 days from that date, it becomes void. And normally it is called a stale check, as bank will not honor a stale check after 90 days. Now let us see how to calculate the due date of a bill depending upon what is mentioned on the bill. Now, when the bill is made payable on a specific date, as is mentioned here, specific day or specific date, which is a bill after date. Whenever the bill is made payable on a specific date, that specific date will be the due date. When the bill is made payable at a stated number of months after the date, in that case, it is mentioned on the bill that is made payable at a stated number of months after the date mentioned on the bill. So that date on which the term of the bill shall expire will be the due date. So the term shall expire. Now the question arises when the term will expire. The term shall expire on that day of the month which corresponds with the day on which the bill is dated. If the month in which the bill period terminates, that is the 3 months number of months period terminates, has no corresponding day, after 3 months or after the number of months, then the period shall be deemed to expire on the last day of such a month. For example, a bill which is signed on January 31st and it is payable after 3 months. So after 3 months, the date is 31st of April. But since there is no 31st of April, then the bill will expire on 30th of April. Thirdly, when the bill is made payable at a stated number of days after date, not stated number of months, but stated number of days after date, then that date which comes after adding stated number of days to the date of the bill shall be the due date. So we have to add the stated number of days to the date of the bill, and then we can arrive at the due date in such a case. So when the bill is made payable at a stated number of days after date, so this is a bill after date, stated number of days after date, not a bill at sight. Then the question arises that when the due date is a public holiday, what to do then? If the due date is a public holiday, then the preceding business day, that is one day before the public holiday, will be the due date. And of course, when the due date is an emergency or it is an unforeseen holiday, in that case, the next following date will be the date, the due date. So if it is a public holiday, which is a declared public holiday, then the preceding day, one day before that. And if it is a sudden unforeseen holiday or an emergency holiday, then the next following day will be the date. Now the term of a bill after sight commences from the date of acceptance of the bill. If it is a bill after sight, then its term will commence from the date of acceptance of the bill, whereas the term of a bill after date will start from the date of drawing of the bill. This is an important aspect of it, that the term of a bill after date will only commence when the bill is will commence as soon as the bill is drawn by the drawer, and the term will not wait for the drawee. It will start as soon as the bill is drawn. But because when the bill is drawn, the date is put on the bill. So therefore, the term will start from that time. And in case it is bill after sight, then the term will start once it is accepted from the date of the acceptance. Now, sometimes what happens is that the bill is dishonored. So the person who has accepted the bill, he cannot pay the amount and the bill gets dishonored. Now the fact that the bill is dishonored and the causes of the dishonor of the bill have to be established. So how do we do that? If the acceptor of the bill can prove that bill was not properly presented to him for payment, then he may escape the liability, because even after accepting the bill, he can escape the liability if he can prove it. So the bill was not properly presented, it was improperly presented. Therefore, if there is a dishonor or fear of dishonor of the bill, then bill will be given to a public official who is known as a notary public. Bill will be given to the notary public because the notary public will certify the fact of the dishonor. So what does the notary public do when the bill is given to him? So the notary public will present the bill for payment. These officials means the notary public. He's a public official. He's a certified public official, certified to be a public official for this purpose. Now these officials, they will present the bill for payment, and if the money is received, then they will hand over the money to the original party. But if the bill is dishonored, then they will note that the bill has been dishonored. So they will do this noting of the fact of the dishonor along with the reasons also, and then give the bill back to their client. So what the notary public here is doing, that when the client comes to him and says that this bill is dishonored, so please check it out, they will take the bill from their client and they will present it to the acceptor. If the acceptor makes the payment, then they will collect the payment and give it to their client. Of course, they charge their own fees. But if the payment is not made, then they will certify on the bill that it has been dishonored, and what is the reason for the dishonor also. So they will note the fact of the dishonor along with the reasons for the dishonor of the bill, and then give the bill back to the client. And for the service, they will charge a small fees. The fee is known as the noting charges. Now, these noting
Sir,
charges, yes.
sir, over there it is written, if the acceptor can prove that the bill was not properly presented to him for payment, what might be the improper modes of presenting a bill for payment, sir?
Well, let us say that when the bill is presented to him, maybe for some reason he is not shown the full bill, or it is not marked, it is not, it cannot be, it is not legible, or if he can prove that he did not know the contents of the bill, like some representative of his gave him the bill, and or sometimes it could also happen that his signature was taken before the bill was made. Sometimes some people say, okay, you sign the bill, I will write down the contents. So of course, it is mentioned here that he may escape the liability if he can prove, because the responsibility of proving that the bill is not properly presented is upon him, because he signed the bill after all. So even after signing the bill, he can escape the liability if he can show or prove that the bill was not properly presented to him. This proper presentation of the bill, there is no prescribed procedure for it. It is just that if he doesn't know what is there, supposing he is under coercion to sign the bill, let us say, if he is under fraud, if he is defrauded to sign the bill, or some undue influence has been used upon him to sign the bill. So all those modes can be treated as improper modes. If he is voluntarily signing the bill after reading the contents of the bill, if the bill has been given to him in proper format, fully filled in, drawn in a proper manner, then he cannot escape the liability after signing. If the bill is not drawn properly, or some undue influence is there, some fraud is there, some misrepresentation has been made to him, he has been brought under coercion. So all such situations can be there where if he can prove those situations, then he can escape the liability. But if he has seen the bill properly, read the bill, if he has been given the bill in a proper form, if the bill was properly written, and then he has signed the bill when he was of a sound mind, or he was not, he could apply his mind at that time. He had not lost his mental resources. So in that case situation, he will not be able to escape the liability for payment. So I believe that I have mentioned a few situations which can be seen as not properly presented. So, but when we look at this word properly presented, we have to just apply the reason and say that improper presentation would be that presentation where the acceptor of the bill is either not in a situation to accept the bill, or he is not able to apply his mind to accept the bill, or he is not being allowed to apply his mind to accept the bill. Broadly, these situations will create an improper presentation to him. After all, a person can always be induced to sign a bill. He can be always coerced to sign a bill. So in all such situations, if he can prove those situations, of course, the proving part is his responsibility. He cannot just escape by saying, oh, there was a coercion and so I won't accept the bill.
Sir, has it to be proved at the very initial phase of the acceptance, or has it to be proved during the due date of the bill? Means when the due date occurs.
Well, when we say prove, it means that if the two parties are not agreeing with each other, then they go to the court, and this thing is then proved in the court. If the other party accepts the okay, the bill was not presented to him, so he is not liable, fine, then it is okay. Whenever two people are agreeing, then nothing is required to be proved. And the question of proving is only arising when they go to the court, when they are not agreeing with each other. So the word prove is applicable to court proceedings.
So, sir, this procedure of proving in order to escape the liability has to be proved before the acceptance of the bill, right?
No. When this proving has to be done when they go to the court after the acceptance and when the due date comes.
Okay.
For payment, he is not paying. The other person will say, why you are not paying? He will say, I have not been properly presented the bill. I was coerced to sign the bill. So the other person will say, no, you were not coerced to sign the bill, you were properly presented the bill. So they will go to court. And in the court will tell the person that you can only escape the liability if you can prove to me before us that bill was not properly presented to you.
Okay.
In that case, he will have to lead the evidence, oral or documentary, to show which amounts to proving to the satisfaction of the court that it has been improperly presented to him. So that is the interpretation of the word prove here. Is that right, or should I explain more?
No, sir. Perfectly right.
Okay. So he can charge a small fee here. The notary public. You must have seen this word notary public written. If you go to your courts, local courts, the notary public are sitting there, and they have been certified by the government to work as notary public. The work of that notary public in respect of the bill is that he will present that bill for payment to the acceptor, because he has to prove that the bill has been dishonored. He is the person who will certify the dishonor of the bill. So for certifying the dishonor, he will go to the acceptor. He will say, okay, you make the payment of the bill. And in that case, if the acceptor makes the payment, then he takes the payment from him, hands it over to the original party. If the payment is not made and the acceptor says, okay, I am not paying, then he will certify the dishonor along with the reasons on the bill and give the bill back to his client who had given the bill to him for certifying the dishonor. Now, once he has certified the dishonor, he can charge a small fee. So, this fee he is charging from whom? The person who has come to him and he is giving him the bill for certification. The person who was supposed to collect the payment of the bill, he is coming to him to certify the dishonor, and he is charging the noting charges as fees from him. But the amount of the noting charges will be recoverable from the party which is responsible for the dishonor. So, the acceptor of the bill, if he is responsible for that dishonor, then the noting charges will be recoverable from him. And if the acceptor is not responsible for the dishonor and the drawer of the bill is responsible for the dishonor, in that case, then the drawer will be the noting charges will be recoverable from the drawer of the bill. So the noting
Sir,
of yes.
Sir, how a drawer can be made responsible for dishonoring a bill? The acceptor can be made responsible by not paying the payment.
That is right. So why dishonor is happening? Because he's saying that bill was not properly presented to him. So he's escaping the liability. So therefore he's escaping the liability for dishonor also. He says that I'm not going to honor this bill. The drawer is the responsible for making a wrong bill or making me forcibly sign the bill. So therefore he is responsible. Now notary public has to be paid his noting charges because he has done his work. Now the question arises, who will make the payment to him? Acceptor of the bill says, well, fine, I may have dishonored the bill, but I am not responsible for the dishonor. I have dishonored the bill, but I am not responsible for the dishonor because the bill was not properly presented to me. It was presented to me improperly by the drawer of the bill. The drawer is responsible for the dishonor. I am not responsible for the dishonor. So the acceptor in that case cannot be made responsible for the dishonor. Now supposing that you are an acceptor of the bill, somebody comes and puts a knife on your head and says that, oh, sign this bill. And you sign that bill because he's put a knife on your head. So you are the acceptor. But will you be responsible for the paying the noting charges when you dishonor the bill? No, because in the initial stage itself, you were not willing to sign the bill, but you were made to sign the bill. So the noting charges will be recoverable from the person who has actually been responsible for the dishonor. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let us see an example. Supposing X has received from Y a bill for ₹1,000. X has received from Y a bill for ₹1,000 means that Y was in the custody of this bill. It is not mentioned here that who has signed the bill or who has not signed the bill. Y was having the bill. Maybe he was endorsed a bill by some ABC. But Y gave the bill to X. So supposing X has received from Y the bill for ₹1,000. Now what happens on maturity? That the bill gets dishonored and ₹10 is paid as noting charges. Now we have to see the entries here. So here the entry in this case will be that Y had, when Y had given this bill for ₹1,000 and X had received this bill, at that time he had credited Y with ₹1,000 because he had received the bill from Y and he had credited Y's account for ₹1,000 and debited the bills account. Now this bill has become dishonored. So what he will do is that he will debit Y for 1010 rupees and he will credit the bill receivable account. He is making a reverse entry. He will credit the bill receivable account for 1000 and he will credit the bank account for rupees 10. Why is crediting the bank account for rupees 10 here? Because he has had to pay from his bank these 10 rupees to the notary public. So this credit in the bank account of rupees 10 is indicative of the payment of rupees 10 to the notary public, and the debit is going for this rupees 10 to Y because he will collect this amount from Y. Why? Because Y gave him the bill and it got dishonored. Now in case supposing Y is not the real acceptor of the bill, then Y can collect this noting charges in turn from the acceptor of the bill or whoever is responsible for the dishonor. Now let us take one more example. Supposing that X has endorsed this bill in favor of Z. So what is happening is that X was given this bill. Now X in this case could be the drawer of the bill also. X could be an endorsee of the bill also. And X is further endorsing this bill in favor of Z. Maybe X is the drawer of the bill and he is endorsing this bill in favor of Z. So when the bill is endorsed, then the name of the endorsee is written on the bill and it is signed and given to the endorsee. Now what happens is that the endorsee can collect the payment on the bill now because the bill has been endorsed to the endorsee. Now what happens is that the bill gets dishonored. Supposing X had endorsed this bill in favor of Z, but when Z went to collect the payment, where will Z go to collect the payment? He will go to the acceptor of the bill because the acceptor's name is written on the bill. He is supposed to make the payment. So Z goes to the acceptor of the bill and he is asking for payment, but that acceptor is dishonoring the bill. So in that case, for dishonored bill, for the entry for the dishonored bill, the Y's account would be debited. And Z, because Z will, we have to understand this entry, Y's account will be debited and Z's account will be credited. Why? Because Z will claim rupees 1010 from X. Because X had endorsed this bill to Z. So the bill gets dishonored. So Z is claiming this 1010 rupees from X. And X has the right to recover this 1010 from Y. Because here you can see X received this bill from Y, initially. The bill which is getting dishonored here, X received the bill from Y and then X had endorsed this bill to Z. So therefore, and this bill is getting dishonored. So what is happening here is that Z got this bill from X. Basically what Z is supposed to do is that when he got this bill from X, he must have credited X in his books of accounts. So if he has credited X in his books of account, how now he should debit X in his books of accounts. But what is happening here is that X has the right of recovering 1010 from Y. So That is why it is mentioned here the Y debit 1010. Because here what has happened is, first of all, when X received the bill from Y and the bill got dishonored, now X in the books of X, this entry was made that Y is debited and bill receivable is credited on dishonor. But here, when the X has endorsed this bill in favor of Z, and the bill is getting dishonored, in that case, Z in the books of X, Z is being credited back again on dishonor because X had given this bill to Z, but this bill has got dishonored because when X had given this bill to Z, then in his books of accounts, what X had done? X had debited Z's account for 1,000 rupees. But the bill has got dishonored now. So he has to again credit Z's account because now he has to make payment to Z. Because the bill has got dishonored. So bill is ineffective. But X has to make the payment to Z. So X is again crediting Z's account and he is debiting Y's account here. Why is debiting Y's account? Because he had received the bill from Y and therefore he has to debit Y's account because he will collect this money from Y now and he is supposed to make payment to Z once again because the bill got dishonored which he had given to Z earlier. Now the third situation is that if the bill has been discounted with the bank, who has discounted the bill with the bank? X. So what is happening here is that X receives the bill from Y for ₹1,000 and then he discounts it with the bank. So X discounts the bill with the bank, but the bill gets dishonored. So what will happen is bank will collect the payment from him now. So he will again debit Y and credit bank this time because he had discounted, when he had discounted the bill with the bank, then he had received the money from the bank. So at that time, but the bill, he had received the money from the bank against that bill at that time, but later on the bill gets dishonored. When the bill gets dishonored, then he credits the bank with these 1,000 rupees. And of course, the noting charges also. Noting charges will keep on getting added and going along with every entry as soon as the bill is getting dishonored. So in this situation, when the bill is getting discounted with the bank, but later on it is getting dishonored. So the situation here is that X had gone to the bank with the bill and told the bank, please give me the money. So bank gave him the money. Now that was not a loan. That was the money that he had finally received from the bank based on the fact that he had given the bill to the bank, so that when the maturity date comes, the bank will go to the acceptor and the bank will collect the payment which they had made to X. And of course, they are in that situation, they are making a profit by charging some money for commission or something for discounting of the bill. But however, when the bank goes to the acceptor says, I am not going to pay to you. I am dishonoring the bill. So then what the bank does? The bank goes to the notary public and the notary public certifies after due process that the bill is actually dishonored. So in that case, the bank will tell X, Okay, you have taken this money from me, return it back. Okay, so what will happen? X will credit bank in his books for 1010 and X will debit Y because X will collect this money in term from Y because he had received the bill from Y. Okay, so that is a situation where uh, noting charges are being accounted for in the case of a dishonor of the bill. Now we go to the situation of the renewal of the bill. Now sometimes the acceptor is unable to pay the amount and he himself moves that he should be given extension of time. He's not dishonoring, but he's asking for extension of time, and in consideration of that he agrees to bear some interest for the extended time period. He says, okay, you give me some more time, I will make the payment and I will pay some interest also for the extended time period, which is calculated from the date of renewal till the date of the expected settlement of the bill. Now in this case, a new bill will be drawn. Whenever a bill renewal has to be done, it is not to be done by endorsement on the old bill. A new bill will be drawn and the old bill has to be cancelled. So in this situation, the old bill has lost its validity and it has been taken, the validity has been moved to a new bill. Now if this happens, then entries will be passed for cancellation of the old bill. Firstly, entries will be passed that the old bill stand cancelled. This is done exactly as already explained for dishonor. Dishonor entries are the same as the cancellation entries. When the new bill is received, entries for the receipt of the new bill will be made, and just like when there is a new bill, and the amount of the new bill could be something like this, that number one, now where the drawee pays nothing, which means that the total of the amount of the original bill as well as the interest for the extended time period original bill amount and the interest for the extended time period, that will be the amount of the new bill. So the interest is being added to the old bill amount and the new bill is being generated, new bill is being prepared for the not only the original bill amount, but even the interest is being added to it there itself in the new bill amount itself, and interest is not being separately paid by the drawee, rather it is being added to the new bill amount itself. In the second situation, the drawee pays the interest amount at the time of the renewal of the bill. As soon as the bill is renewed for the new time period, the drawee pays the interest there and then. So that is the amount of the original bill. In the original bill, the new bill amount will be the same as the original bill amount in this case. The third situation is that where the drawee makes part payment of the original bill and he says that he will make the remaining payment after the extended time period, or he pays the interest amount, or he pays both part of payment of the original bill as well as the interest amount. So in that case, that part of the total amount of the original bill which he has not paid and along with the interest for the extended time period on the unpaid amount will total up to the new bill amount. So there could be the three situations here, that when the acceptor is asking for a renewal of the bill period, then he is also saying at the same time that there are three situations there. Either he pays the interest there and then, or he doesn't pay the interest and he says that interest I will pay along with the total bill amount. So you can just add it to the interest. You can add the interest to the total bill amount itself, or he pays part. He makes part payment of the bill, or he makes part payment of the interest also. So if he makes part payment of interest or bill, whatever amount he has paid, that he has paid, and the remaining amount will be added to the bill, the new bill, so to say. So now the next situation is retirement of the bill of exchange and rebate. Now we've seen that renewal of the bill is made when a person does not have sufficient funds. When the acceptor does not have sufficient fund to pay for the bill of exchange on the due date, and he requires a further period of credit, as we have seen, then he requests for a renewal of the bill of exchange. But many a times, some instances will arise when the acceptor has spare funds before the maturity date. Even when the maturity date has not arrived, and acceptor of the bill has spare funds with him. So why should he bear interest, or why should he, if he wants to clear off the bill straight away for whatever reasons, then he has got spare funds. So what he will do is that in such circumstances he will approach the payee. He will go to the payee and say that whether he is prepared to accept the cash before the maturity date. So he is requesting for the retirement of the bill before the maturity date, and in such cases, if the acceptor is ready to make the payment earlier, he will get a certain rebate or interest or discount for premature payment, because he is making a premature payment. He need not make a premature payment, but if he is willing to make a premature payment for some reason, and he's willing to make the payment because he has got spare funds with him. So he says he thinks that when he makes this premature payment, he will get some rebate, or he will get some interest or discount on that. So it is in his interest to earn some money on spare funds. So he will go to the payee and he will say, okay, I'm ready to make the premature payment of the bill, which is called the retirement of the bill of exchange. The rebate becomes whatever rebate is coming, it becomes the income of the acceptor of the bill, and it becomes the expense of the payee, because the payee has to bear this rebate cost. Now it is a consideration which is being received by the payer, by the drawee or the acceptor of the bill for the premature payment. So that is how bill's retirement can happen, and for that a rebate is received by the acceptor of the bill. Now let us see illustration 1. Now in this illustration, Vijay has sold the goods to Preetham on 1st September 2016 for rupees 1,06,000 rupees. Now what Preetham did was, Preetham immediately accepted a 3 months bill. Accepted the 3 months bill means Vijay wrote a bill because Vijay sold goods to Preetham. Now Vijay wants the payment for the goods. So Vijay will draw the bill. Vijay will be the drawer of the bill, and he will draw the bill and give to Preetham. And in that bill it is mentioned that he can pay after 3 months. So Preetham immediately accepted a 3 months bill. He gave his acceptance by signing the bill as the acceptor of the bill, because he has to make the payment on that bill. So Vijay is the drawer of the bill and Preetham is the acceptor of the bill, or the drawee of the bill. Now on the due date, Preetham requested that the bill may be renewed for a fresh period of 2 months. And Vijay has agreed on the condition that Preetham pays 9% per annum interest immediately in cash, or he pays interest at 9% immediately in cash. To this, it is not a per annum interest, it is an interest of 9% to be paid immediately in cash. And to this, Preetham was agreeable. Preetham says, okay, he'll pay this cash of 9% for the renewal for a period of 2 months. Now, the second bill, to this Preetham was agreeable. The second bill means the first bill, therefore, as you have read earlier, that the first bill has to be cancelled and a new bill has to be generated. The second bill was met on the due date, which means that Preetham made the payment after 2 more months. So we have to give the journal entries in the books of Vijay and in the books of Preetham. So now let us see in the books of Vijay what is happening. So Vijay has sold the goods to Preetham. So when he sells the goods to Preetham, he credits the sales account and debits Preetham. This is the entry for making the sale. After that, Preetham accepts the bill for 3 months, and when the bill is accepted for 3 months, Vijay credits Preetham for 1,06,000 rupees and debits the bill receivable account because he has received an accepted bill from Preetham, and this is a bill receivable. And since he has accepted the bill, he has received the bill on which he will receive payment from Preetham. So it is a receivable bill for him because he will receive payment on it from Preetham after 3 months. So he debits his bill receivable account by that amount, 1,06,000, and he credits Preetham for it. When he's crediting Preetham, it is like, Preetham has given him this bill. So Preetham's account gets squared up by 1,06,000 rupees because here Preetham's account was debited earlier on the sale and now it is credited. Then what happens is that Preetham's acceptance is cancelled because the bill has to be renewed. So entry has to be reversed here because the bill is being cancelled. So therefore, Preetham will be again debited and bill receivable will be credited. This is a reverse of the above entry. Thereafter, because Preetham has to pay interest at 9% on 1,06,000 rupees. So in the Vijay's books, Vijay is debiting Preetham with 9% of 1,06,000 rupees. So he's calculating 9% of 1,06,000 rupees and debiting Preetham with it and crediting his interest account. In this entry, interest is not received, it is just accounted for. Now, in the next case, a new bill is prepared, and in Vijay's books, this new bill is debited for 1,06,000 rupees, and cash is being received 1,590. Why the cash is received? Because on account of the interest, this cash is received, and therefore cash account is debited by 1,590. Bills receivable account is debited. A fresh bill receivable account is debited by 1,06,000 rupees, and Preetham will be credited with both the amounts. Why Preetham is being credited with both the amounts? Here Preetham was debited with the interest of 1,590. So once the interest is received, then Preetham is being credited with the amount equal to the interest amount also. So in this entry where Preetham was debited by 1590 and interest was credited, Preetham was supposed to pay this interest, and once Preetham pays this interest, he gets credited by 1590 over here. Of course, he has signed a new bill also for 1,06,000. So to that extent also Preetham is again getting credited. Thereafter he makes the payment after 2 months, and when he makes the payment, then Vijay debits his cash account by 1,06,000 rupees, and he credits the bills receivable account in his books, because now cash has been received at 1,06,000 rupees against the bills receivable from Preetham. So on this basis, it is easy to understand what will be going on in the Preetham's books. But let us revise once what is happening in Preetham's books. Now Preetham has made the purchase from Vijay. So Preetham is debiting his purchase account for 1,06,000 rupees and crediting Vijay with 1,06,000 rupees when he makes this credit purchase. Thereafter, he has accepted a bill. So that is a bill which is payable, which is representing a payable amount for him, and therefore it is a bills payable for him, and so he credits the bills payable account. The bills payables would be shown in his books on the liability side of his balance sheet. So this is he is crediting the bills payable account and debiting Vijay account, thereby signifying that he has made the payment by way of accepting the bill. But however, the bill has to be cancelled, so later on after 3 months, he requests for a renewal. So the above entry is reversed. Vijay account is now credited and bills payable is now debited. Thereafter, he has to pay interest to Vijay because he has contracted with him that he will sign a new bill and he will be paying interest of 1590, which is 9% of 1,06,000. So he debits his interest paid account or interest account, and he credits Vijay for 1590. Later on, when he pays interest in cash, he credits his cash account and debits Vijay. And of course, he signs a new bill also, so he credits Vijay with 1,06,000 also, and he debits Vijay with 1,06,000 and credits the bills payable account also by 1,06,000. Finally, he makes the payment after 2 more months, and so he credits his bank account to make the payment and debits the bills payable account. So bills payable account thereby gets squared up. So with that, we reach the end of this morning session, and we continue with the session from illustration 2 in the evening session. So please join us in the evening